Good evening and welcome to Inside News. I'm Mike Jones, and with me on the phone is Dale Matthews. Hello, Dale.
Hi, I am still at Three Rivers here. They've decided that they can make me faster and stronger, and they've decided that tomorrow morning they're going to give me some additional stuff to take home. And this is the highlight of my day, isn't it, for everybody?
Okay, yes, I guess if you say so. Actually, the highlight of my day today was digging a hole in the yard. I was out there, and this is not a small hole. This is like a deep hole. I'm trying to bury my hydroponic solution container so that it stays cool during the warm months so that algae growth doesn't take place inside. And I'm getting really hydroponically geeky here. So.
Well, it sounded like this morning when the commissioners were on KAJO that they were digging their own hole. And in talking with you about it, they're at it again. What are they doing, Mike?
Well, that's a good question. You know, there's a lot to say about this, but we'll let them cue us on it. And so without any further ado, let's just go ahead and go right into it. And the cues will be obvious. I'll stop it, or Dale, feel free to jump in anytime. Here we go.
Okay, let's do it.
Good morning, everyone. It's time now for the Tuesday talk show. And in-house on the very last Tuesday of the month, we have the Josephine County Commissioners. All three are present. The chairperson, Cheryl Walker, of course, Keith Heck and Simon Hare, all on board. Welcome to the microphones of KAJO Commissioners. Once again, glad to have you with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Well, Madam Chair, let's start with you. What's on the Commissioner's plate so far this week, or what's uppermost in your mind this morning?
The county budget.
County budget.
That budget
that process continues. The hearing.
Yes, we have a hearing this afternoon, 4 to 6. This is where the sheriff will make his presentation, as well as the Public Works Department. So it's going to be interesting, and people are welcome to come to the Ann Basker building at 4 and hear the presentations.
All right. What has been the process so far?
We had one meeting last week ago, and that was where we set out our agenda as to what departments we wanted to hear. And of course, being that public safety is like the #1 topic for everyone, of course, that is at the top of the list. And so we'll be hearing about that. And we're also going to have some information from our county finance officer in regards to some of our discretionary funds and designated funds and what those accounts mean.
Do you have an idea of what to expect from the sheriff this afternoon?
It'll probably be more of the same. We don't have any additional money to give him. And he's going to be telling us that, of course, some of the good things that he has done in regards to assigning another deputy to Cave Junction, that kind of thing. He sent some reorganization that I think has been very effective. So he'll be talking about that, I'm sure.
All right. The word I keep hearing is status quo. I also understand that we do have that part-time deputy out for the BLM right now. He's on the road. Is that correct?
Yes. He was to start. We have contracted for 6 months. Mostly out in the Ivy area, because that's where most of the Forest Service land is out in the rural areas. So he will be a backup to other officers, but his primary job is the forest.
Oh, all right. So we're not early enough in this process to decide where that $1 million goes to the sheriff yet. Is that correct?
I think you're referring to the $1 million that's in Public Works, if I'm not mistaken, and that is going to remain in Public Works unless there's some compelling reason to move it. The issue being that lots of times people are saying that we should take $1 million and put it into the sheriff's department or into the public safety program and hire more deputies and expand that kind of thing to provide more service. The problem with that being is that we would have to train whoever we hired. Once you hire them and train them, the training takes the better part of 6 to 9 months at least. And then we don't have any money for the second year. So we've spent the money to train someone and we can't keep them. We'd have to lay them off. So,
Mike.
Okay.
Mike.
Yeah, that's clearly the time to jump in.
Oh, man.
Same old tired argument, really.
Oh, you know, they're talking about a 5-cent levy from the schools, a 5-cent levy. And it's new taxes, so I'm not going to go for that. And most people are not going to. But they said that for $600,000 that they can, wasn't that the number? $600,000?
$300,000.
The $300,000 that they could $200,000, and they could get 6 part-time deputies that are running out of the sheriff's office during this emergency time and manning the various schools. They're armed.
Yeah.
Right. And the sheriff is vetting them. And so what she's saying here is, and it's important to catch how quickly this happened. Just a few days ago, they said, okay, now what are we going to do with this $1 million that came in during an emergency now?
Right.
And are we going to give it to the sheriff's office, which makes some kind of sense. Oh, no, maybe we can't do that. You know, that money's not really been put into any account at all. Right. Now suddenly, oh yeah, that's already been put in the account. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean it's already been put in the account?
When did that happen? And
right.
You know, also, if you recall during the hearing on the supplemental budget, when Margaret Goodwin brought up the idea of taking that $1 million out of the windfall Forest Service SRS money and using that for road patrols, immediately Simon said, oh, well, wait a minute. This isn't really the proper venue for talking about that. Let's bring it up in the budget hearing later, and we'll get into that. But
and now is the later. Today was the later.
Today is the later. And the odd thing about that is that they were going to discuss it. Now, apparently, the matter is closed.
Well, it's an emergency, and you know, I don't know what the sheriff said today, but my guess is, based on past performance, he got up and said, well, I would like pretty much the status quo. The status quo? How can you be asking for the status quo when it's, hello, an emergency?
Listen, as we, most of us who watch the show regularly understand that Dave Daniel pretty much just does what he's told to do.
Oh, man, that's not what we need as a sheriff.
You need somebody who says, hey, listen, pal, if you got money, I want it. You know,
right.
That's how you're supposed to do the thing. But this guy doesn't have that kind of spine. And he's sort of a government, curmudgeon. That's his thing.
Well, you and I sat right there with him, and people have watched our show where we were saying, what happened to all those people who were your backers that wanted more money for you? And he laughed. I don't know. He said, I don't know.
Yeah, but listen, he knows exactly what happened to them. The event where you can go and get some more of the people's money had passed. And so he's not going to see any more of those people. Listen, the next time another levy comes up, you're going to see, all those people are going to be flocked around him like they've been his best friend and they've been hanging tight forever.
And we were the ones, I'm not making this up, we were the ones that kept getting up the people who had opposed the initial levy, partly because they were saying, well, let's keep the spending of the money purposely vague. And we got up and said, this money should go, the first money that comes in the door should go. Here, this windfall money comes in, $1 million. But talk with us a little bit, Mike, about the idea, this, I think, largely discredited idea that you're going to need to wait 9 months or a year, and then why even bother?
Yeah, that's actually, it's very, very silly. There's no obligation on the part of anybody in this process once that money gets transferred over to the sheriff for him to blow it out of a cannon in 1 year. I mean, if you ask Cheryl right now, okay, it's in Public Works. What are you going to spend that on this year? Because you only have it for 1 year. So what are you going to spend it on this year? What road, what bridge are you going to fix this year?
Well, no, and going back to $135,000, we've talked about this before. This was at a public meeting. It was a weekly business session. And Cheryl Walker said, reasons I just still don't understand. We've got $135,000. We don't know where that came from. And we've asked them several times. And they won't tell us where it went to. That was going to be spent on the money for water testing. $135,000, she said, would pay for a sheriff's deputy for a year and the vehicle. That's $135,000.
Right.
So why is it $1 million is absolutely useless? How about one deputy and the car for
10 years.
Or
8 years. But you could probably find some supplemental money inside the general fund to put toward that and make it go 10 years. But let's say you even did it 7 years. The point is that you don't have to blow this all out the door in 1 year. And they're creating that illusion because they don't want to alleviate the problem. I get sick of saying it, but I'm sure that most everybody that watches this program, but maybe some new people don't know, that the idea is never, ever fix the crisis without an influx of the people's money. You have to have the people's money. If you don't get the people's money, shut up. If money comes in, try to keep it on the down low. If people find out about it, tell them that there's some elaborate reason that's so complicated that they wouldn't be able to understand it, that you cannot take that money and use it for public safety.
Every night we talk about solutions, not just the problems, because the people who think we only talk about the problems are not listening to the show. They're not watching it. I hate that show and I never watch it. Yeah, right. Okay. And one of the things about this is that when you have money coming in and it's an emergency, but Mike, it's only going to last for 7, 8, 9 years. Why, that's only 14 levy proposals, and we can't possibly solve this problem. No. We've got to stop these guys, because I remember Cheryl saying, I drive by the juvenile shelter and I think of the kids that are in there and it just makes me kind of choke up. Hey, wait a minute. You're the one that's making sure that people are in danger because you don't like, I know that's a strong statement, but you don't like the people's solution. You've never liked the people's solution. The people have a solution for you now.
Yeah.
Get out.
You know what? And this is a really good point. It is true that they are using deception. Sorry,
it's true.
They are actually creating a situation where there is less public safety. And they're hoping that because of that lesser public safety, which could ultimately end up in somebody's demise or families losing all their possessions or whatever. But they don't care about that. What they care about more is getting more of your money coming in. To them, there is no other solution besides getting more of your money. You can't. Now, listen, everybody understands that taking the $1 million, which we're statutorily allowed to do, is not the permanent solution, but neither is a levy, for crying out loud.
That's right.
In 3 or 4 years, then you're done with that levy and you have to rationalize another one, or, but what they're hoping to do is they're hoping to get the levy train rolling, so that when they get the first one passed, then halfway through that, they can tell you that, oh my gosh, we would love to be providing the level of public safety that you all crave, but we still don't have enough money. We really need to have, 50 cents more.
Of course, when they tried to pass that $1.40 or whatever it was, they even said at that point, that's not going to be enough. Right. Well, what's following that? We all know what's following that, another levy, because it wasn't enough. And so when some candidate says, I like 99 cents, you know what that is. Mm-hmm. It's simply saying, well, 99 cents will do it for now. And once you break that ice, it's never going to end. And I'm not going to give them a dime when they say, let's keep the spending of the money purposely vague. No, I'm not giving them a dime.
And to that point, the deception and the purposeful vagueness was being pushed at the last meeting when Simon said, we'll bring that up at the next meeting when we meet to talk about the budget. That seems to be the appropriate place to talk about that. I would be willing to bet, because I think I understand the way Margaret thinks on this, that she probably is going to bring it up again. She's going to get shot down because she's one of 6.
That's right.
And but the bottom line is that there is a reason why they will not use that money. They were expecting 51 $50,000 and they got $1 million. And you're going to hear her here in a couple of minutes saying, well, you know, our public works fund doesn't have that much in it. Well, you were expecting 51,000 to be in it. You know, in addition to the couple of million that's already there. People get confused about this because when we talk about the $1 million, we're talking about two different $1 million. We're talking about $1 million that we were talking about during the budget cycle last year.
That's right.
Where immediately what happened was Margaret Goodwin proposed the use of $1 million of road funds and using HB 4175 to fund road patrols. And then Arthur O'Hare got up and said, well, you can't actually do that because there's only 500,000 of these funds that are probably eligible. And then she immediately said, okay, then let's go 500,000. They shot that down.
Happen.
They shot that down. And then after they were completely done with that budgeting process, then they found out about the $1 million that came in.
Right.
Right. And so that's the other $1 million. And this is the $1 million that is like manna from heaven that they weren't expecting, that they can use for this, but there is a choice being made not to use it. 51,000 and they went to $1 million. Well, why don't we let them keep their 51,000 and we send the rest over to the sheriff? But anyway, here, let's continue with this because there's a whole lot more.
Okay.
That's not a very efficient use of funds, and it certainly doesn't provide a level of service that people would expect when you have people that are trainees.
And there are the roads then too also need to be maintained. Repaired.
Exactly. Yeah, when you look at the other side of the equation, we're not a county that has a huge reserve in our public works department. We have a very small reserve actually compared to most other counties.
All right.
Now they use this idea, they use this expression all the time that, hey, you know, these other counties, they have so much more than we do. Well, you know, last year during the budgeting process, there was somewhere between 50 cents in that roads and bridges reserve fund and like $8 or $10 million. And, you know, we still don't have a solid number as to what that is. They give us a different one every time we ask them. But it was somewhere, we thought it was probably around $4 million or something like that.
And it's dropped down to 2.
It dropped down to 2. Okay.
Hey, where did $2 million go?
Yeah.
Where did 2? See, here's the reason why these guys have to oppose, and the people who are putting us at jeopardy by only putting the sheriff's department on the rack in order to be able to touch this instead of, you know, some other department, is that if fiscal conservatives come in there, just imagine this, and the very first thing is they're going to want people to come in and take a look at the books. Oh, no. You remember when they were talking about it being a draconian measure that the state had in mind with, you know, if we, a year and a half. Well, I mean, if 9 months or a year is too short, a year and a half with the governor coming in and taking over and doing things, not only is that too short, but there's no extension. Oh, well, there could be extensions for 3 years. No, there can't. That's what they've said now. So, well, they were willing to give up part of our local sovereignty to not solve the problem.
Yeah, she makes reference to that in here a little bit later. And so here, let's wait and talk about it then.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Simon, look, did you have your hand up a second ago like you wanted to jump into this?
Well, there's always, you know, a ton you could say about these issues. They're fairly complex. And
yeah.
Okay, this is the thing that really ticks me off.
It's too complex for people to understand. Yes, these guys are paid huge amounts of money to explain to us the complexities, but the way they're explaining is such a convoluted way that you can't understand what the heck they're saying.
Yeah, and in reality, this is not that complex of a thing, but Simon likes to hold something up over your head and go, well, you know, listen, I really don't want to burden your poor little mind with this because it couldn't comprehend what's going on here. So.
And he's actually said at some of these meetings, if you think you understand this, I can guarantee you that you don't. Yeah. Hey, you know, that's that imperial attitude again. Yeah. When I went to school, and not to make a big deal about me, you know, my major was physics and journalism. Okay, what I've done with that is I believe that I can take a fairly complex subject and try to explain it in words where people can understand. We need to demand that and not put up with this stuff. Well, the money came in, but really we can't spend it because of what? You know, no, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I think the way that it was intended that we do government is as simple as possible for everybody to understand it. The thing is that government is far more complex than it needs to be. It's a tangled web, as it were. And I think it needs to be a whole lot simpler. I think it needs to be a whole lot smaller. It's a pipe dream to think that you could accomplish doing that, but any progress that you make in that direction is going to be beneficial to your community, I think.
Well, follow the money. Again, $135,000. Where'd that come from? And when they only spend 77, where did the rest of it go to? And they were going to sign a 5-year contract with this guy. So follow the money. And we keep asking them, where did that money come from and where did it go to? And they never answer. That's all that you need to know.
Yeah. All right. And we continue.
Yes.
I think Commissioner Walker did a really good job of summarizing. I think I wanted to go back to the status quo and how that's getting somewhat of a negative connotation. But I think it's important for people to remember that but for the diligence and the fiscal saving that we have done to make these funds go as long as possible, that's the only reason we're able to provide status quo level of service this year.
Wait a minute. Who's asking you to do that? You know, I would like you to make some changes that would bring savings with this budget. But the thing that he's not telling you here is that the demand for a status quo budget means that you cannot spend any less than you did the previous year.
And they made this clear to everybody right after the last budget. The next budget will be status quo. Wait a minute. No, the next budget should be starting with, since it's an emergency, like the Emergency Operations Center, are you going to dedicate one of your employees or two to answer the phones over at the sheriff's office? Because he said we can't get people out on the road because they're answering the phones. These highly paid guys that are trained with weapons and stuff are sitting there on a telephone? Yeah, no, the first thing that we need to do is we need to say to everybody, and you know, you cannot directly take on the unions. It's a little too early for that. Okay, it doesn't mean that you know it's the death to everybody that's organized. I mean, there's a reason, and some places where there's a union, like there's a reason for public feedback. And what you need to do is you need to say, okay, we're in an emergency. How are we going to share the resources? Let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they were talking about this thing about oh my gosh, the reason is just about slipping out of my hand. This is why they've got me here, because they're going to try to see that I'm not quite as conservative with the amount of food and medicine and stuff I'm taking. I'm conservative in many different ways, right? And so I told you I was able to cut my meal cost down to $1 a meal.
Oh, for crying out! I'm a liberal when it comes to I'm a liberal when it comes to eating.
Yeah, I've noticed. Nobody would know by watching you on
the
show.
Yes, of course.
And the thing is that it's going to come to me in a minute. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. All right. Let's just
increase that with 70% of the general fund already going to the criminal justice system or public safety in Josephine County. We don't have anywhere else to go. And I think it's important for people to remember that the things that have been on the chopping block in the last couple of years have been the Parks Department. It's been the fairgrounds. Public health has been through the crosshairs. Planning. These are the departments that have historically, prior to this board, received general fund dollars. And we've cut them off. We've put them, on their own revenue streams, make it or break it. And
okay, all right, Mike. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what the story is. We all know part of the story about the fairgrounds. Tell us about the use of
Title III money.
Criminals.
Yeah, I believe that's the Title III money there that it was. I think that there was going to be an issue where that money got cut off, and they were griping because they're using these funds to then take criminals that are in the jail and have them working. And I don't have any problem with having the criminals in the jail doing some form of work or whatever.
Nor do I. Yeah.
But the point is that they're saying that the fair and parks and things of this nature are self-sufficient, and that's clearly not true if you're using prisoner labor to maintain them.
So stop telling us that the county is not backing anything up. It's like saying that the library, I like libraries, that the library is totally independent of everything. No, it's not. It is not. We are giving economic development money to the library for something like let's please make sure that the kids' books are there. I like the idea kids' books are there, but that's not economic development.
Right.
So no, there's something wrong here, and I think we're being bamboozled on this. I think that we are being deceived because how in the world are they going to go to the state and convince the governor that we are in an emergency situation when they don't spend $1 million that came floating down from heaven?
Yeah, and of course, though, you know what, and I say this all the time, that I think that those people would probably collude with them on their tactic, because they don't want to give us money. They want them to be taking their money from us as well. And because listen, when they take more money from us, I believe that the state gets a little more money from us too. So
right, and then what the state has in mind is this thing where everybody, all the different counties, have to be at $2 plus in their taxes, and that's to start with. We should be proud of the fact that we're able to do some of this. Well, what we've decided to do, the cost-benefit analysis, at 58 cents. Well, that's not enough. Hey, who are you to tell us that's not enough? We've decided that's what we want. Oh, you're lunkheads. Oh, okay, but we're American lunkheads, and we've taken our vote, and this is what we've decided to do. Well, what about the base rate? That is the base rate. And instead of telling various other counties and business and everything, hey, move here, we've got a lower tax rate than other places, and using that as an advantage, what they're actually doing, and it started with the previous sheriff, he was going around the state and sometimes in different states and telling them what a bunch of stupid people that we were, that we weren't voting for the kind of levy that he wanted to. Yeah. When he ran on the idea, and this second guy did too, that I'm going to deal with whatever you give me. The next day, physically, the next day, he was there asking for more money. That's deceptive. Right after being voted in.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I'm getting a little sick of deception as a tactic to move people toward what you want. I mean, if you're standing in front of, let's say, Simon Hare and say, listen, Simon, do you think that it's morally wrong to lie to people to achieve a goal that you believe is good for them?
That is the point. And the thing that is maybe more important about this than anything else, we might have to make this into 2 shows. The thing that's more important to me.
At this rate, we will, Dale.
Yeah, than anything else is, even if you're absolutely convinced that your neighbors are insane, they have voted. It's America. And if you don't like it, there's other countries you can move to.
Right.
Even if you think they're insane, don't lie to me. Well,
and in this case, you don't have to go too far because there's other counties that you can move to.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, this incessant talking down of the county and as a strategy somehow to get the group think to be that we are in danger all the time. I mean, this is problematic, and I hopefully we're putting an end to that this year. And
that's the goal. We need to look first into the books. Where has the money been going? This purposely vague stuff has got to stop cold. And then once we figure out what we do have, and we can show the people that we're now spending the money a little wiser, it doesn't mean there's enough money to go around to everything we'd ever like to do. And maybe we can convince people over a period of time that we need to spend more money on this or that. I'm not giving them any more money until I know where it's going. Why would anybody do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's hear some more, because we're like 4 minutes into a 1 hour show.
Able to dedicate so much of the general fund to the public safety. So that is our priority. It has been for years and will continue to be.
All right. So status quo, according to you, is good right now because it doesn't go the other way.
Well, if you look back at the past, we've been cutting significantly of our criminal justice system. And this year, to be able to maintain that level of service for 1 year, that's not a small feat. The people have sacrificed a tremendous amount to be able to provide that. And that isn't going to be the case. In 17, 18, the coffers are going to be empty. There's nothing left. And the prognosis of a secure rural schools and hitching your wagon to that star is a little tenuous. It's not getting any easier for Congress to appropriate those secure rural schools dollars. It's getting harder and harder every year.
And it seems like it comes later and later every year.
Yeah. And I don't want to, be the doomsday. I think there's a way out of this. We'll figure.
He doesn't want to be the doomsday. Yes, he does.
Man.
He absolutely does. That's the whole point.
Does he really believe that nobody has a memory that every single time a levy has come up, they said, now, this time for sure. Oh, no, this time really, 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 or to quote one of the people that comes to meetings occasionally, really, 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 really. Now, wait a minute. No. And we can't forget, we should not forget, this is the same guy that said it's all over. Keith Heck said it too. It's done. Cheryl Walker said there's no activity. They knew at the time that there was activity because later on when we revealed it. Mike Jones and Dale Matthews, we revealed that there was activity, and they had been telling us, and they admitted, well, yeah, we know that. Hey, what do you mean you know that? You just told us that there was no activity. They're looking us straight in the eye and lying to us. Now, if everything's on the up and up, you don't have to lie. Just say, well, there's activity and we can't be sure. Okay, I buy that idea. Well, but instead what they're saying to Walden is, and he admitted it, he was in the newspaper saying he's been asked by local officials not to say anything positive about SRS payments.
Right. And to me, that smacks of, the ends justify the means.
Exactly.
Or you're purposely deceptive, or, you're lying to people on purpose. And it may well be here's the only question in my mind. Is he lying to us because he thinks that we're like little children, and in order to do something that is good for us, he has to lie to us to get us to do it? Is it that, or is it even worse? Is he lying to us to achieve a goal that he knows is only for their benefit, not ours?
Well, look at the results to their reputation. The reason there is a badcounty.com, and the reason that people in Salem will laugh about what we're doing is that we've been electing people who are willing to just look you straight in the eye and lie to you. This is bad for them. Cheryl's out. Keith is, I'm hoping for single digits for this guy. Simon Harris says he's not going to run again. Well, he's got state aspirations. What has this done to their credibility? What has this, that the bigger picture is, if the people, and it's bad enough across the country as it is, and I'm not going to say it's all about a national mood, but we've got definite proof, absolutely, without a doubt, that people have been doing this to us here locally. Well, you have a national mood. No. We have proof that you've been doing this. And how's that working for you? Look at all the money that they spent on that last levy. Well, it's, we've done a survey, a push poll. And boy, it's definitely going to happen this time. It's not working for them. And so now, what's the real dark cloud? Sorry to be negative. What's the real dark cloud on the horizon? We're not going to ask you anymore.
Right. Yep, and that, Cheryl makes reference to that here shortly, if we ever get to it. Okay, here we go.
Figure something out, but I will say that it's getting harder and harder to figure it out and make things work.
It's very complex.
The options that are going to be going forward and proposed are not going to be pleasant without some sort of funding stream to make up the difference.
But I'm not trying to be doing.
You see a way out, Commissioner Hare. You said
the
you
problem
thought
is that the proposals that I would like to work on, and in my mind, they take a lot more time than anybody could ever expect. And frankly, more time than we have. They probably take 5 years, and managing our forest lands better. The county.
You know what? This is another thing that bothers me is they always go, well, we can't do that because it would take too long. Well, sure, if you never ever do it, if you never ever start, of course you're never ever going to accomplish it, or it's going to take a very, very long time. That's just a ridiculous argument. But
and what are they doing to themselves? What are they doing to the credibility of county government? If every time something comes up that's really simple to see, we weren't expecting this money, let's spend some of that money. Even if you felt that wasn't the ultimate solution, which of course it's not, but even if you felt that way, have you no regard for the public and at least making some kind of statement, at least saying, well, yeah, let's spend that money here. And even if they think that it's not enough, well, it's going to make them look better. It's going to improve their rating with people and their integrity. Keith X says, well, give me a break, integrity, haha. Well, they're going out the door with no integrity. It's going to take a little while to get anybody to trust, no matter who it is that's in office now, because they're so used to these guys, and it's so easy for everybody to see this thing with this $1 million, brother. That's the stake in the heart of the people who think that all they need to do is keep finding new ways to lie to us, keep finding new ways to pretend like there's no solutions, brother. That's not making it. And so look what it's poisoning the next people that come in, because
I think it's fairly transparent to people that, and of course it's a stupid argument to make. I can't imagine making it myself that, well, because we can't get 10 million, 1 million would just not be a solution. So
well, look what other counties have. Other counties have $100 billion. And so why should we even try?
Yeah, I just
No, you do what you can. It's like this thing about sending letters to the federal government. Is sending a lot of letters to 10,000 letters to the federal government? That's my plan. Is sending them 10,000 letters really going to make a huge, big difference? Well, it's better than none, and it's better than not sending a single letter to them. But what is it for? Well, partly it is to be the squeaky wheel, because you're never going to get the grease otherwise, if grease is what you want. And the other thing is, I'm in the hospital. No thanks for the grease. But the other thing is, at least what you're doing is you're representing the will of the people who said, why the heck aren't you sending any letters? Can we at least start with, even if it's symbolic, $1 million, $1 million is symbolic? Really? Is that what we've come to? If you can't even do the symbolic thing, then what use are you?
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing is that I think that if they are receiving correspondence from us, either by phone, by email, by an actual snail mail letter, which I think is actually very effective.
Yeah.
I think if they get enough of that stuff, it becomes more front of mind to them that, hey, this is an issue. And listen, you can start conscripting people in other areas, because we're not the only one dealing with this. There's 18 O&C counties, and then there are counties in other states that are dealing with the BLM and the Forest Service with federal lands.
1/4 of the entire nation gets SRS payments. Right. We never knew that before. As soon as we found it out, we told everybody. And what was their answer to that? Silence. No, this isn't working for me, bud. What we need to do is, and look, other politicians in other states and up north, they look down here and they see this and they go, what's wrong with those people? And they don't just mean them.
And this is where I always differ with you on this point.
Yeah.
I don't think these other politicians, they're doing this, they're screwing their own people in the exact same way. They don't.
Okay, all right. Let me switch sides.
They just think that it's stupid that the politicians down here can't seem to get us to vote more money out of our own pocket, or my God, I'm glad that we don't have a bunch of constituents that are so tight with their money like those people.
Yes. So I'm going to switch sides with you here. I see your point. You've mentioned it before. Instead of saying, well, we're the knuckleheads and you're right, what we should be doing is we should be saying, if we can make people as happy as they're going to be. I mean, when you look back at law enforcement in the county, and people have been saying forever that there wasn't enough, that they're not satisfied with it. Okay, so we can say at the moment, because we know this is true, that there's a majority of the voters that have said, well, I'm not delighted with it, but I'm willing to pay this and no more, several times, 9 times since 2000. That being the case, we are, quote, satisfying our local voters, at least when they do the cost-benefit analysis. Now, what other county in the state is going to want to do that? Because that means they get less money themselves.
Right.
You can't tolerate that from us. We should be using it as a banner. It's like that example I gave. The guy he's got some barn or something behind a berm of earthworks, and you can't see it from the river. And what we should be doing is, instead of giving in to the state that says, well, you can't paint that orange because you can't see it anyway. Mm-hmm. What should happen with the commissioners is they should go down, invite the press, paint that thing orange and green and whatever the colors are of the county logo, and then say to the press, okay, here's our statement. Now, the state could, the feds could say, well, that's theoretically. No. We're standing up for the people.
Dale, they even talk about this situation with the wild and scenic thing. And
really?
And the
wow.
Colors and later in the show, I'm telling you, this thing is a treasure trove. So here's some more.
Okay.
Forest lands better, finding some sort of a legislative solution to the ONC issue. That takes time. The litigation takes time. I mean, that could take 3 years. The Swanson versus Salazar case, you have a new Secretary of Interior in the duration of that lawsuit that resulted in a higher ASQ, annual sale quantity, for the Medford district.
Oh, he never gets that right.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to tell you something. This is one thing that I believe very firmly, and fine, go forth with the lawsuit, but this is a political issue. Mm-hmm. And if you deal with this, if you're putting pressure on the legislators themselves, they can make a decision that totally negates the need for, a legal decision. They could go, okay, listen, it's clear that, we've got to do something about this, and we got to throw these guys a bone, because for crying out loud, I can't get them off of my back.
Well, okay, so here's something I'll say. I've been debating about, how to put this and when to say it. So this will destroy me with a couple of the different candidates out there. I believe that it doesn't matter that this can take years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter the little pittance that we can put into this as one of the poorest counties in the entire state. If they succeed with this or don't succeed with this, it's not like they're going to say, we've said this before on the show, oh, well, Josephine County dropped out the last minute, so they won't get any of this. That's just not true. And so I believe, I know that it's a wonderful thing to go there and, well, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Yeah. But listen, how's that been working out for us so far? Drop our membership in those things. This is not about somebody's ego and are they on the chair of the chair committee. What this is about is the amount of money that we have, and we've got an emergency right here that we're not doing anything about.
Very interesting that you make reference to that, because Simon also talks about later in here that there is apparently, of the 18 ONC counties, there is one that is not a member of the Association of O&C Counties. But, if they win this lawsuit, I think that all, it applies, I'm pretty sure, across the board. It's essentially, unless I'm missing, what the purpose of this lawsuit is to address the fact that, hey, the O&C counties are not getting, our comeuppance here in this, and we want our money.
Right, and I do not want to fund these characters traveling around the country. Do you remember when Simon Hare was at that National Association of Counties, and they put up on their own website? We caught it before they took it down. It's unbelievable. Here was this young lady in spangly kind of tights or whatever, and she's dancing on the top of a table to entertain the people who are standing around drinking their cocktails. Mm-hmm. I don't want my money going toward that.
Yeah. And you know what, I suspect that a lot of these organizations that we're involved with, that's exactly what's going on. These are little slush fund, feel good ideas. Like it's a good idea to be a part of this thing because here's what there are representation in Washington. If we're not a member of this organization, then, we're not going to get any benefit. I think, listen, if you had a team of people from this county that did nothing but harangue legislators
yes.
every day, you would get a lot more out of that than you would being a member of any of these organizations. Do you remember the movie Fatal Attraction?
Oh, yeah.
Where she goes, "I will not be ignored." I mean, this is what you have to be to these people. Yeah, I will not be ignored. You're going to take care of my problem,
Well, and here's Simon in the little back room talking with the other commissioners. Where's their energy going into? And he's saying, you've heard this on this show before, everybody has, we need to have a bigger table. A bigger table. We need to have a bigger table to show off these candies and this wine. And it's wonderful. We've got candies and we've got wine. Yahoo! And who gets to eat that candy and drink that wine? Why, other commissioners from other counties. And he's saying, now we're going to need to hire somebody to pour the wine. What in the world? He says, because, and they said to him, Cheryl said to him, well, are you going to be there to man the table? Oh, no, I'm going to be busy shaking hands. Don't spend our money that way. Yeah. Get out.
No,
I mean, there's an easy solution to this one. Get out.
Yeah, that's silly. That's silly. Okay, a little bit more, and then we got to wrap this up here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That lawsuit's still going on. So I don't want to dominate the hour, but these are complex things. The solution, there is no silver bullet. People who propose to you need to cut everything else and fund the criminal justice system. We could do that. We've almost already done that. That is not the solution. And study the books. The budget's out. This process will be slow and long. People have an opportunity to look at it and look at last year's budget. Because if the status quo is the case, as the proposal from this board has been, you can look at last year's, and it's fairly similar. So,
all right. In all fairness, I'll pose that same question to the other county commissioners: is there a way out? Is there a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow somewhere waiting for us here, Commissioner?
Absolutely. Alice in Wonderland has it.
All right. But is there a way you can point?
No, there's not. There's not a way. Then that's part of the difficulty is that
you hear that there's no hope.
Will come up and tell, if you'll only do this, then we'll be solid. We might be solid as far as being able to have, 2 more deputies or whatever on the road for 4 more deputies, or whatever the numbers are. But that does not solve the problem. It simply prolongs the having to deal with the problem.
What?
Yeah, that's really bizarre. I mean, I thought we had a law enforcement problem. And
no, this is going to, if we put more deputies on the road, it's going to prolong the problem.
That doesn't alleviate a law enforcement emergency problem. What are you thinking?
If we put more deputies on the road, it's not going to alleviate the problem. It's going to it's going to drag the problem out. Mm-hmm. You know what this is? This is that bridge to nowhere, because the bridge to somewhere is a bridge to another levee,
Right.
which is in itself a bridge to another levee and another levee, and they're not telling us how the money is being spent.
Wow.
They're going to need to oppose this, Mike. I mean, two of the people that they have to oppose are you and me, because we're going to say, how's this money being spent? And we'll do that no matter what happens in the next election. But they don't, they're refusing to answer the question. And one of the key players in all this is Arthur O'Hare, the finance director.
Well, we got about 8 minutes into this thing, and we're essentially have exhausted the time for tonight's show. But there's so much in this one, believe me when I tell you. And when you get a chance to sit down and listen to this in one sitting, Dale, you'll agree, and there'll be all kinds of stuff for yet another show on this. And so,
you know, when people watch the show, all they're going to see is this thing that says on air anyway. So whether I'm sitting at home, which I will be, or whether I'm somewhere else, it is the content of what they're saying and their last struggles to try to explain to people why there are no solutions except the one that they like.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, we have done what we can for tonight to explain what some of the actual solutions are, and some of them are a bit pushy, but that's exactly the kind of attitude that's needed right now. This, we can't tolerate this.
Yeah, I agree. And more tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good night,
okay.
everybody.
Well, we've had so many candidates forums in a row. It's about time to hear from the people who are
the opinionated folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And am I right that you've got some kind of picture of me that doesn't look so bad?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to live with it, whatever it is. What choice do I have? But
Yes.
tomorrow night you're
None.
going to see something. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Mike, for pulling this together. Boy, I didn't know if just one KAJO show could do the whole thing, but it's obviously more than
there's probably 3 show. We've done a 3 or 4 show show from one from one of these shows. That doesn't sound exactly right, but you know what I'm talking about.
It's in the hands of the voters, or will be soon, okay, because some of the ballots have already gone out to people who are in other places. It's in the hands of the voters. They do have the option not to say, well, that there are candidates that have every answer, because they don't. None of them do. But they do have the option to say, you know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick honesty over this kind of deception.
Agreed. And with that, good night.
Good night, everybody.